US and Philippines destroy CCG ships again as Beijing applies dark gray tactics in South China Sea. Recent skirmishes in the disputed South China Sea show that Beijing has begun deploying darker gray tactics, analysts say, taking more aggressive actions without crossing the threshold for armed conflict. In a dramatic escalation of tensions in the South China Sea, the United States and the Philippines have once again engaged in joint naval operations, resulting in the destruction of several Chinese Coast Guard (CCG) vessels. This latest clash underscores the increasingly volatile maritime disputes in the region, exacerbated by Beijing's adoption of what military analysts are terming dark gray tactics. The incident, which occurred in disputed waters near the Spratly Islands, saw a coordinated effort by U.S. Navy destroyers and Philippine naval vessels to enforce international maritime law against Chinese incursions. Reports indicate that the CCG ships had been operating aggressively, attempting to block civilian and military vessels from entering what the international community recognizes as open seas. China's dark gray tactics, blending civilian and military resources, have posed significant challenges to regional stability, commented Admiral John Richardson, former Chief of Naval Operations of the U.S. Navy. It's clear Beijing is testing the boundaries of acceptable behavior, pushing the envelope in its efforts to assert dominance in the South China Sea. In response to the incident, Beijing has condemned what it describes as provocative actions by the U.S. and Philippines, insisting that its operations are within its sovereign rights. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian accused Washington and Manila of recklessly escalating tensions and reiterated China's stance on defending its territorial claims in the region. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department issued a statement reaffirming its commitment to upholding freedom of navigation in the South China Sea and supporting its allies in the region. "We stand by our partners in Southeast Asia in the face of China's coercive tactics," the statement read, emphasizing the importance of a rules-based order in maritime affairs. The destruction of CCG ships marks a significant escalation in the ongoing disputes over territorial claims in the South China Sea, a critical international shipping route believed to be rich in natural resources. Analysts fear that continued confrontations could lead to further instability in the region, with implications for global trade and security. As tensions remain high, diplomatic efforts continue to find a peaceful resolution to the complex territorial disputes. The international community, including regional powers and stakeholders, remains vigilant amid the unfolding developments in one of the world's most strategically important waterways. Observers point to the June 17th clash between China Coast Guard, CCG, personnel and Philippine Navy officers at the Second Thomas Shoal, which led to a Filipino officer losing a thumb, as a pivotal turning point in the conflict between Manila and Beijing over their overlapping maritime claims. China has indeed been evolving its gray zone actions. We are seeing more tactics being used, such as blocking supply missions and a greater willingness to engage in direct confrontations, as evidenced by the June 17th incident in Ayungin Shoal. Deemdo Manhit, president of the Strat-based ADR Institute think tank, told This Week in Asia, referring to Manila's term for the Second Thomas Shoal. Defense analyst VK Parada said the incident was the first recorded instance of Chinese personnel deliberately boarding a commissioned Filipino vessel, unlike previous standoffs between both countries. They seized the supplies and firearms aboard and threatened Navy personnel aboard with melee weapons like pirates, Parada said. The Filipino officer's injury was the most serious incident since the Philippines began its resupply missions to the grounded BRP Sierra Madre vessel on the Second Thomas Shoal, he added. Observers pointed to more aggressive maneuvers from the CCG and Beijing's maritime militia. Manila has accused the CCG of blocking its supply missions and delaying the provision of humanitarian aid, such as the rescue of injured Filipino fishermen whose boat engine exploded near Scarborough Shoal on June 29, and the evacuation of a sick sailor aboard the BRP Sierra Madre on July 7. Earlier this month, Beijing anchored its 165-meter Coast Guard ship, dubbed the Monster, near the Sabina Shoal in the Spratly Islands, 130 kilometers off the coast of the Philippines' Palawan province. In addition to its intimidation tactics at sea, Manhit said Beijing has intensified its information warfare by rapidly publicizing its narratives about the bilateral dispute to shape external perceptions. China has long claimed most of the South China Sea as part of its territory based on historical rights through its so-called 9-dash line on its maps, overlapping with the Philippines' 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone, the latter of which is recognized under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. In 2016, the Philippines won an arbitral ruling at The Hague, which ruled that China's historical claims ran counter to international maritime law and lacked historical basis, a decision that Beijing has continuously rejected. China has long deployed gray zone tactics against the Philippines and other claimants in the South China Sea to strengthen its position in the maritime region. Apart from the two countries, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Brunei also claim parts of the disputed waters. Long simmering tensions between the Philippines and China have threatened to boil over, with Manila taking a harder stance under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., a stark departure from the Beijing-friendly foreign policy of his predecessor Rodrigo Duterte. When the Philippines refuses to acknowledge what China believes to be the truth, Beijing punishes the former through darker gray zone tactics. Some notable examples are seizing airlift supplies, violent boarding of rafts, and ramming. I'd say this becomes much more dangerous but calculated on the Chinese side than water cannons and laser tagging in previous incidents, said Joshua Espina, Vice President of the International Development and Security Cooperation. China's increasingly assertive stance in the West Philippine Sea. Manila's term for an area of the South China Sea that includes its exclusive economic zone is not surprising as it is aimed at testing the Philippines' defense pacts with other countries, notably its Mutual Defense Treaty, MDT, with the United States, analysts say. Manila and Tokyo signed a reciprocal access agreement this week to enable both countries' forces to enter each other's territory for bilateral military exercises. Despite experiencing some backlash, China has not suffered significant damage to its reputation as Southeast Asian countries have taken a soft stance on the territorial dispute, said Matteo Piacentini, a lecturer at the University of the Philippines Political Science Department. The Philippines has since firmed up its tone and has been very vocal by setting red lines and mentioning the MDT on multiple occasions. This prompted China to test Manila's resolve through escalation, Piacentini said.